Why don't we start with how'd your tournament go? How'd all that go? You're in Minnesota, right?
Not Minnesota, Michigan.
Oh,
Let me pause the game. 4 hour drive up to Michigan. Beautiful, beautiful part of the country. Don't get me wrong. I was in like Northville, or I think it's called like Novi, Michigan. We had games in too. It's a lot different than soccer in California. I'll put it that way, because with these indoor facilities and
what the heck? Indoor? That's so weird.
most of the games were outdoor, but I mean, as you can tell, I mean, I'm not super red today, but I took a beating. I was out there from, I had to cover, I don't even want to get started on that. I had to cover someone at 8 in the morning, and then I didn't even finish my last game of the day till 9:20 p.m.
That's horrible. That's a
Yeah.
long day.
Got a nice little 20-minute nap in between the middle of the day, so I survived as I'm still here today. But
There you go.
it was a long weekend. Definitely for some of the groups, a nice little wake up call. For one of the groups, it was an opportunity for them to see, like, hey, this is what we're capable of. This is what we can do. So went into the weekend with not a whole lot of optimism from other people within the club, and left the weekend with a few people shocked at how well one of the teams performed. So I
But
mean,
that's good.
yeah, do what you can, and sometimes you're at the mercy of your personnel. So
Yeah.
whatever.
Nice, dude. That sounds like it was a good first tournament, right? That was your first tournament with them?
Yeah, it was a nice little, I guess, step into the world of Midwest football, and
Cool.
how teams look to play, and yeah, it's different. It's interesting, but it's different.
Yeah, yeah, I get that. Um, I played a little tournament yesterday, seven-a-side tournament, but made it to the semifinals and lost to a pretty solid team. But that was my soccer adventure for the weekend.
Go. You
Yeah,
still finishing in the top four though. It seems like your seven-a-side teams have success majority of the time.
yeah, this was a different team. I actually only knew like three of the guys on the team. It was just some people threw the team together for the tournament, but it was a good time. And we got tickets to the DC United game next weekend, but I'm out of town, so I can't go. I'm going to your favorite city, Chicago.
Nice. Maybe you
Yeah.
should hit up a Fire game.
Chicago Fire. Gosh.
Yeah, 'cause I know everyone's trying to get out to DC United games nowadays. It's
Are they?
no.
I was like, I wasn't aware of this. I have no idea. Are they even good this year?
The only thing I know about DC United is that they have had a Greek guy who is a mega racist player.
Really?
Yeah, the Taxi Funtas guy or whatever played for like Rapid Vienna or whatever in Austria,
Hmm.
and DC United brought him in a couple of years back, and it was one of those signings where he's like a small attacking midfielder, comes into the MLS, like he had success early, and then like he had some scandal where he said some racial slur to an opponent, I think, and then they were never able to prove it right, even though it was pretty obvious. And then they brought him back, and then he didn't want to come back, but then he came back, and then within a couple of weeks of him being back, like got into it with one of his teammates and called one of his teammates something, and I was like, this is unbelievable.
That's so crazy, dude. Like, it, just related kind of is just the players who are so talented but just have so many off the field problems or like are lazy and don't actually try and just like waste their talent. Like Eldel Tarap, like he could have, based on what everyone says and what you've seen on the highlights, like he looked
Right.
so skillful, but it was always like attitude and lazy, and it's like, dude, you could have been so much more.
The streets won't ever forget. That's what they say, right?
Please won't forget him or Hatem Ben Arfa.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy how often it happens, and maybe it doesn't happen as often as I think, but it just feels like every few years or so, there's a handful of guys that's just like what could have been.
Well, and it's even crazier that it happens at the top level because it seems like you
Right.
would probably see that stuff way more at like the youth level or like semi-pro where there's really talented guys but they just can't get their stuff right. But the fact that these guys made it to the top and they still like can't get their shit together, it's like, what's going on, man?
Well,
Um,
it also leads to a realization for yourself of how good they really are.
That's exactly.
Because people are willing to put up with that.
They're
So,
such a mess that they're still so talented that they can play in the Premier League. Um, maybe that'll
but
be us someday.
you know what? You have it all and you still lose it. So I guess lose it's not the exact phrase you would use because they end up in like Serie A or Bundesliga at some point. But they have a decent career. But it's always like, okay, well, you could have been a top 6, top 4 player for the majority of your career, and now you're bouncing around other leagues within the world.
Do you remember Hakeem Mastour?
Yeah, the 16-year-old kid or however old he was when at AC Milan, and then
He was doing those videos with Neymar and stuff. Yeah. I remember, I think I was like a sophomore in high school watching videos on YouTube of Hakeem Mastour and Martin Odegaard. Those were the two. And they were like the top talents, like these crazy dribblers, all this stuff. Odegaard was playing like professionally in Norway at like 14 years old. Hakeem Mastour just looked so dirty. And I was like, dang, like these guys are crazy, but like I wonder if they'll actually ever do anything. I kind of felt like they wouldn't. It just seemed like too good to be true, kind of. And obviously their careers have gone completely different directions. But Odegaard has been successful after some rough times, you know?
No, definitely. He's one of the wonder kids that panned out, or it seems as though he's panned out. He could fall off. You never know with these guys and injuries and whatever. But I feel like not enough people talk about the Mastour kid, and the U.S. is always getting the short end of the stick with Freddie Adu at 14, and everyone's always talking the failed wonder kid, and I'm like, well, you guys kind of did the same thing with this kid, and he didn't pan out.
Yeah. I feel like there was just so much more hype around Freddie Adu because he was American. So like we thought we had our own Messi or something, our own Pele, but it was just Freddie Adu.
I mean, Football Manager didn't help. They have this guy. He's going on to be the best in the world, and he's only 14 years old at the time. So, or was he actually 14 though? That's the age-old question. Was he actually 14?
Controversy about that?
What's up?
Is there a lot of controversy about that?
I think it definitely falls into the conspiracy theory realm with soccer because, I mean, he's Ghanaian and American, and you see a lot of these guys who are 16, 17 playing in youth tournaments and then disappear by the time they're 22 years old or 22 years old.
Yeah.
So they're actually 25, 26-year-old guys playing in under 17 tournaments. So definitely falls into that scope, but conspiracy theories in football, Joey. I know you and I are both fanatics when it comes to conspiracy theories around the world and spending way too much time watching ridiculous videos that make absolutely no sense, but you try to make sense of them. Are there any that you're aware of? Are there any that you've heard of? I know I have a few in mind, but I'm interested to see.
Everton are in control of the New World Order. Everton are controlling everything that happens in every aspect of your life. No. Dude, I don't know a ton of football conspiracy theories. I've seen like some accounts on YouTube or on like TikTok that like talk about them. And there's one that has stood out to me that I really like is that Crystal Palace are always 12th place. Have you seen that?
It almost seems like that might be the case.
What'd you say?
Said it seems like that might actually be the case.
Yes, Crystal Palace are always 12th place, no matter what. And wait, let me Google the table from last year. I think the only thing, let me fact check this real quick. Premier League from last season. I could be wrong, but at one point the only thing powerful enough to knock Crystal Palace out of 12th place was Chelsea's horrible season. Yeah, last year Chelsea got 12th and Crystal Palace got 11th. So that was the only thing that could knock them out is Chelsea being horrible.
But one off though, I mean, it's not like finished 8th or 7th or anything. They're right there.
No, I can look at the other years too and see. So last year they got 11th. The year before they got 12th. The year before they got 14th. Okay.
It's still in that they're within range. They're 1-2 spots away. It's not like it's a massive jump.
12th again. Yeah. Okay. So that's my best one. Crystal Palace always 12th place. What about you?
I think the big one that I'm sure a lot of people have heard and seen, and people talk about it all the time, is the '98 World Cup with Ronaldo in the final, and how he was sick the night before, and
Mm.
how he had to play because he was a Nike sponsored athlete, and Adidas was sponsoring Zidane on the other side. So I think that one's the one that stands out. I was actually reading about some earlier, and there's one that I'd never heard before that I was like, what?
What is it?
I think it was the '58 World Cup when Pele played and Brazil won, and it was in Sweden.
Mm-hmm.
There was a Swedish guy, I think it was a journalist, who theorized that the tournament wasn't actually in Sweden because there were buildings in the background of stadiums that he didn't recognize, that he said didn't look like Swedish buildings. And he said the tournament was actually in the United States, and it was an opportunity for the Americans to show their power with television and getting to the minds of viewers. And I was like, this is a conspiracy theory.
That is a conspiracy theory. You're right about that.
But
Do you believe it?
Do I believe it? Not a chance. That's insane. That's insane. I'll buy in. I'll buy into it if you can give me a little bit of information that'll sway me one way or another. I'll buy into it and I'll look into it, and it's always fun. But that was a little too far fetched for my brain to wrap around. I don't think you could. I don't think you could fake an entire World Cup, and I'm sure you could go to Sweden and ask 5 or 6 people, and they'd be like, "Yeah, I was there."
Yeah, imagine faking a World Cup. Like, that's harder than faking the moon landing. To fake an entire World Cup in a country, like,
Yeah.
That's crazy. I'd like to meet this journalist and hear more about his theory.
Well, I guess he's probably not around anymore.
Bummer. Well, I might look into that theory. That's a good one. I also have another one kind of similar. It's the conspiracy theory that a lot of people think Spain won the 2010 World Cup, when those of us who actually know what went on is that North Korea beat Brazil 1-0 in the World Cup final.
That's right. Yeah. Apparently North Korea's won every World Cup since it ever started.
Yeah, no, North Korea won the 2010 World Cup 1-0, beating Brazil. And for some reason, everyone always talks about Spain and Iniesta scoring and all that, but it didn't happen. It's fake. It's propaganda.
I'm definitely with you. I've watched the broadcast. I've seen it with my own eyes. It makes sense as to how they would only play one game in the entire tournament.
Well, yeah, because you only want to see the best. So obviously you're going to take the best team, Brazil, against the best country, North Korea. And there you go. That's your final.
Exactly.
So people need to educate themselves on the history of the World Cup. And
open up your eyes, guys. FIFA's corrupt. FIFA's corrupt.
For real. For real. That's what they don't want you to know, man. North Korea won it all.
Yep.
Oh, man. Yeah, I'll do some more research into football conspiracy theories, and I'll come back with some more next week.
There's definitely a lot. There's definitely a few ones that are just kind of, yeah, I think people are just.
Do you have more?
A stretch. It's a bit of a stretch, but definitely interesting topic to speak on. I guess within the same realm, within the same scope of conspiracies, are superstitions. I have one that's really funny that comes to mind right away when I think about this. Back in our college days.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really superstitious when it comes to pregame rituals, when it comes to repeating activities on game days, or if there's a long tournament weekend. Now that I'm coaching, if I did something the day before, if I ate something the day before, I probably eat the same thing. I am way too superstitious. I think I have an impact on everything that happens in the world based off of what I ate for breakfast this morning.
Yeah.
That'll change the way the game ends up. So, I mean, hey, this weekend I listened to the same song before every kickoff, and we won every game. So, you know,
You know the song?
I will not say it here just out of pure embarrassment, but
that's fair. I respect that.
So the one I was always one, it was like put my left sock on first and my right sock, blah blah blah. But there was this week-long period of time in college where I was just on another level. at practice. Like practices were just going so well. I went into the weekend thinking I was going to get the start. Didn't, but
Classic.
you know how that goes. But I want to say it was a Monday night before practice, and I was getting a little hungry
Mm-hmm.
before we had to head over to the field. So I went down to our little local snack shack area, and I got a bag of Cheetos.
Mm.
Probably not the best snack, probably not the most nutritious to have prior to practice, but my brain was just saying, want some fried cheese, crunchy thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I went to practice that night. I think I scored a couple goals, and it was just, I left that practice thinking, I gotta have Cheetos every night. So I'm not kidding. I had Cheetos every day before practice for that whole week.
That's hilarious.
And then when the game didn't go to plan, my Cheeto themed ritual came to an end.
Short-lived, but
there was a time there where the power of Chester was within me. And
ripping it up.
I'm telling you, it proved to be a difference. Not when it mattered most, but it proved to be a difference.
Jeez, I wonder if Ronaldo's considered Cheetos at all. I wonder if that's part of his ritual.
I'm sure he does. He probably blends it in with like spinach and stuff like that in a nice little shake.
Dang, what year was this? Was it freshman, sophomore, junior?
I want to say this was my junior year.
All right. Thanks. So I was around.
You were around. I think you were a freshman, right? Yeah, a freshman.
Yeah. Dang, that's a good one, dude. The Cheetos. I can't. So I don't. I'm not. I'll say this. I'm not superstitious, but I am a little stitious. Classic, dude. Classic. No, I really haven't had a ton. I think the only one I ever really had, which is I think pretty basic, is back when I was in like high school, the night before every Tottenham game, I like needed to wear a Tottenham shirt to like bed. Like I'd wear a Tottenham jersey or a Tottenham shirt. Yeah, really weird. But I do remember there were times where like I couldn't find my jersey and I was searching all over the house at like 11 p.m. to find this shirt. But I don't think it really did anything because we still like got Europa League every year and got knocked out in the round of 16. So.
But maybe that's what the jersey was leading to.
Oh gosh, so we would have been even worse without it.
Or better.
Better? No, but I wore the jersey every night is what I'm saying, and that's the best we did.
Yeah, but do you still wear the jersey now when you go to bed?
No.
So I guess that leads us into our next conversation. Tottenham Man United this past weekend. You didn't wear the jersey Saturday night, I'm assuming?
I did not, no.
Was it Saturday night or Friday night?
Friday night.
It was Saturday kickoff, that's right.
Yeah.
So you didn't wear the jersey Friday night.
Something worked though. Maybe the power of Ange is too powerful, overpowered my stitions.
I was telling you when he got hired that this guy wins everywhere he goes. He's something special.
Dude, I mean, but so did Mourinho and Conte, and somehow Tottenham overpowered them.
Times are changing though. Kane's out. He was the one that brought everything down.
No, but I do think there's something to that where obviously Kane's a great player and he really lifted the team, but I think a lot of players were kind of like, oh, like we can just play and we know Harry will get the goals, like we don't really have to take responsibility. But now that he's gone, everyone like has to step up, you can't just wait for Harry Kane to score goals. So I do think mentally that might be helping them a bit.
No, I'm with you. I definitely think you have a player like that, you become a little bit reliant on them. Mm-hmm. Obviously, world-class players are going to help you find a way to, in Tottenham's case, get a result. I mean, it wasn't always a win, but get a result. So I think now you'd have to think that they're playing more as a team. I think the style of play that they're playing, it's more of a team play. But if you had to use one word to describe Tottenham's performance this weekend, what would it be?
Surprising. I did not have any confidence going into that game. Like, just we never really beat Man United, and I thought like we would have a attacking play like we did against Brentford, but I just thought, we almost got caught out against Brentford a few times passing around the back. I thought we would get caught out, and honestly, we are a little bit lucky. Did you watch the first half?
Watch the first half. Yeah, we'll get into it. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have a word to describe?
I do. I would say my one word to describe Tottenham's performance is efficient.
Efficient. All right. I like it.
I think after watching the first half and a little bit of the second half, obviously watched the full highlights, extended highlights and everything, it almost seemed as though 8 out of 10 attacks ended in the final third, ended with a chance or a dangerous opportunity. I just think they're so efficient when going forward. Now, they definitely leave themselves open and susceptible to quick counters, which maybe a better team. I'm not super high on United, but a better team maybe takes advantage of. But yeah, I think efficient for me describes their performance against United. They had chances, they didn't put them all away, but they did score 2, and they're getting a lot of numbers in the box. I think the inverted fullbacks that Ange is running, allowing Son and Kulusevski to stay wide. First off, how did Pedro Porro not start the first game of the year? Guy was unbelievable.
Dude, but Emerson was really good last week too.
But
So
I
it's
mean,
a
I
good
guess
battle there.
they have a wealth of talent at the outside backs, and I think they're looking at potential young player of the year, and this Udogi guy at left back.
Yeah, he's killing it.
If he can turn some of those runs forward into assists or goals, which he almost had in this past game,
Yeah.
I think they're really cooking.
Mm-hmm.
But I do have to say, I'm not gonna no fault on Ange. The dude is brilliant. I think he's a wonderful manager. But I have to ask if he switched Son and Kulusevski, would the service be better into the box? Would it lead to more chances? Because I just felt like Kulusevski was getting the ball a lot on the right-hand side and then was so delayed in his service just because it's on his weak foot, and then vice versa with Son. Obviously, he wants him to cut in and get a shot off, but I think if they're always drifting wide in those wide positions, you're almost asking them for them to serve the ball into the box on their weak foot. But
Yeah.
you think?
No, I don't know, because you want some service from the outside, and usually if you have inverted wingers like that who want to cut in, you have the fullbacks overlapping, which still happens, but like you just said, they're kind of playing like we're having our fullbacks play like center mid these days. Like they're coming so far inside, so yeah, we do have to find that width. Son just, I don't know, I feel like he's not that guy to get down and whip crosses in. Kulusevski, I get what you're saying about him waiting a little too long, but I just think that's his play style in general. He's the type of guy who it looks like he's about to get tackled because he's waiting too long, and then somehow he just like pulls it out at the last second. Like that's just, I feel like he waits for the defender and then makes his move instead of making his move before the defender. But I get what you're saying about him like being a little delayed. But that was definitely my criticism in the first game. I felt like we need more width. This game, I felt it was a bit better. Maybe having Porro on the right helped.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll be interested to see how that goes going forward. What'd you think?
I think, to be honest, the game could have easily gone either way.
Wait, can I get your opinion? Did you think it was a handball on Romero?
I think it's yes, he was a little bit outstretched, but it's natural for a defender to, when they extend themselves, to almost stretch out in a way. And I don't think, like, you could probably go back and watch a lot of previous games, not of Tottenham, of just other Premier League sides, and it's probably happened and just not hit anyone's hand. And this time it did. So I don't think it's a penalty. I think the Martinez tackle on Romero in the box is more of a penalty than the handball being a penalty.
Dude, I really thought that was a penalty. Like, I think that if this is last season, that definitely gets given as a penalty. That's my thing. I just don't know what the rules are anymore. They change so often. Like, it used to be if it touches your hand at all in the box, like 2 or 3 years ago, it was a penalty. Now it's like, it's just always changing. So I'm actually happy if that's like the standard you're going with this year, where that's the PK, because I felt like it's just gotten too easy to get PKs these days. It's so hard for defenders. So obviously I was happy to see that not given as a PK because it worked out for my team, but also because I hope that's kind of the standard they're going with this season. But still, I was still kind of shocked. Like, his hand was like up here almost.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think if I had to describe United, it would be unlucky. Like, you had the one that came off the post. Vicario was standing on his head, basically.
Yeah, Vicario killed it.
2, 3 unbelievable saves off Casemiro. One off Casemiro's header. Rashford's, like, the dude was unbelievable. But I think they got a little unlucky. You talk about the penalty. Any other day, maybe it is. And then that flips the game on its head. And then also Anthony's. I think if United scores that at that moment, they probably find a way to win that game. But I don't know. I just think Tottenham looked really, really good going forward. I think Madison, a lot of people talk about him being overrated just because he's English.
Yeah.
I think the guy's unreal. I think the guy every time he gets on the ball, something happens.
Yeah, dude.
But I also think Tottenham, if they find a 9, proper 9, because I mean Richarlison to me is like a Gabriel Jesus type player.
Dude, I was talking to I went to the Tottenham bar this weekend to watch the game, and it was packed in there, the most packed I'd ever seen it. It was such a good time. But I was talking to people in there, and they're asking about Richarlison. I was saying, like, I feel like we kind of give him a lot of credit because he scored some good goals, like those at the World Cup, and he's Brazilian. So we're all kind of like, oh, like, sure, this guy's good. He's just out of form. But I don't know. I'm starting to think maybe he's just not that great, and we just think he's better than he actually is because of the fact that he's Brazilian and how he looks and whatnot.
Right. I mean, he hasn't really had a Premier League season that is kind of stand out. Obviously, he had a good year at Everton, which led to him getting his move to Tottenham. But you look at his stats, the guy is basically a goal every 3 games, and you're not going to win the league with a striker who scores a goal every 3 games. Obviously, stats are inflated with Haaland, and you expect your striker now to get 2 goals per game, basically. But
he got 2 goals all of last season. Like, that's just not even close to good. Yeah.
I think he could definitely be an option off the bench. Like I said, he reminds me of like a Gabby Jesus, not just because Gabby Jesus is Brazilian, but Jesus isn't one of those players, and we talked about this before. He's not a player that's going to win you the league, but he's definitely a player that can come on and make a difference. That's why he often didn't start for City. He was behind Aguero. So I think if Tottenham can find that Aguero type player replacement, because they had Kane, you put Kane in this side, you could argue that they're up there. They're going to be challenging, but I just think if they can find a player who can come in and offer them something different, maybe we're talking about a top 3, top 4 side, whereas a lot of people are talking about them finishing outside the top 8, which is absurd in my opinion.
I don't know. It's still so early. Like, it really is. Anything. 2 games, like 4 points, anything could happen. It was a good performance against United, but like they haven't looked good all season, and honestly, they could have easily beaten us if that was given as a handball, or also Bruno missed an absolute sitter on the header. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Jeez. So it's nice to get a 2-0 win against United, but it could have gone anyway, you know?
Well, I mean, this could be a building block. This could have been the game that really gets them going and opens things up for Tottenham. But going from one of your favorite teams to another, San Diego blank, the new MLS side. San Diego boy finally gets a team in his hometown.
You don't know.
First off, give me a name. Give me a name. Obviously, it's probably going to be San Diego FC or something like that. But if you could come up with a name for the team and the owners were listening right now, give me name of the team and face of the franchise. Ideal first signing, big name signing, all the money in the world you could spend on him. Who is it?
Oh, gosh. All right. Name. Gosh. Honestly, I wish it could still just be the San Diego Loyal. I wish we could just keep that team going. Honestly, I don't love that name, but I wish we just didn't have to create 2 separate teams. I wish we could just keep that going.
Yeah.
So I wish that was one thing. Shirt sponsor, year 1. I want wings and things plastered right there, baby.
Okay.
Huge wings and things.
Is that a staple down south?
Not really. I just love it. It's just my favorite place in San Diego. I love it more than almost anyone else, I think. But so that's my choice. And then any signing, oh gosh. I mean, are we talking realistic?
No, you don't have to be realistic. It could be. I mean, the Dynamo signed Hector Herrera, and that was for us. That was pretty big. But you could be as unrealistic as you want. You can be as realistic as you want. Who's your first ideal signing? It doesn't have to be a guy outside of his 30s either. I mean, with the way that the league is trending.
All right.
Guys are coming in.
A little strange, but Luca De La Torre, just because he's from San Diego.
That's your ideal signing. That's the guy you want to represent the club in the league, is a guy who is French U.S. men's national team 23 for the World Cup.
Well, but okay, ideal. I'm saying Mbappe, but like that's not gonna happen.
Okay.
So I need somewhere in between Luca De La Torre and Mbappe, is what you're saying.
I mean, you don't have to. It could be De La Torre. That could be your guy. I'm sure if we tag him in this, he would absolutely love that.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know. Bring back Landon Donovan. Let's go, baby. Bring him back. Get his boots back on.
How old is he now? I think he could probably get you a few goals, especially if Luca De La Torre was giving him service. Hey, nothing against De La Torre. Love the guy. I think he's a fantastic player. I don't think his time in MLS has come yet. I think let's keep him where he's at.
Yeah, no, you're probably right. You're probably right. I was just thinking a guy from San Diego would be cool to have. But yeah, so front three of Donovan, Mbappe, and De La Torre right behind him. That's what we're going with.
That's definitely a title challenging team.
Dude, you honestly signed one half decent player from Europe who actually cares, and you can win trophies, as shown by Inter Miami.
Oh, for sure. Except
they were the worst team in the league. Yeah, that's true. But still, like they could have done it with just Messi. You know what I mean?
Maybe, but it also helps that they've got one of the best holding midfielders to ever play the game, and then on top of that, have a left back who, yes, is 36, but is still within the national team fold. So
great player. Yeah.
They just look like they're having a lot of fun. But I mean, yeah, like you said, you get a guy who cares and actually plays for the love of the game rather than the checks that he's cashing, because he probably has enough for 10 lifetimes. But yeah.
Did you I saw a video today posted about Neymar like going to Saudi Arabia on his private jet. Did you see that?
747 Boeing or 737 Boeing, whatever it's called.
Like, obviously I care about the environment, but I'm not like one of the, like, I'm not crazy about it, but like that pissed me off, dude. I was like, are you kidding me? This guy's flying in a plane that big just for himself? Like, that's insane.
I saw someone tweet that and say, so you're telling me we're supposed to drink our drinks out of paper straws just so this guy can fly in his private jet, or not even jet, private plane, commercial plane?
No, that thing was insane. Yeah, that was just like, I was like, you should not be posting this. If you're going to do this, like, don't show the rest of the world, because that's not cool.
I mean, it goes back into that infinite pot of money that the Saudis have to work with for these players. So, I mean, on one hand, it's like, come on, but on the other hand, it's like, if you can have it, would you have it?
I mean, it's easy to say you wouldn't, but I honestly don't think I would. Like, that's so bad. But obviously, it's so easy to say that to someone who couldn't even dream of having it, you know?
Right. I mean, hey, maybe we can dream.
You never know. This podcast could take us crazy places, dude.
Right. And maybe we'll have like a 7 Boeing plane.
Yeah, maybe.
Without the 2 extra numbers.
With paper straws on board, just to offset our damage.
That's right. I guess, damage. You talk about damage. Let's lead that into our next topic. I think we're doing a really good job of transitioning from one thing to the next.
You're killing it.
But I think when you talk about damage, I think you can't talk about damage in the sport without talking about hooliganism.
Oof. Yes.
You spent some time in Spain. You spent some time in Germany. You spent some time in Italy. Talk about your experiences. Have you ever experienced anything like that?
Hooliganism. Did I tell you about the time I ended up on the front page of the Spanish news?
No, but let's get into it.
It's not that crazy. I'll post a TikTok about it. I'll post on Instagram so everyone can see. But basically, Atletico. I lived in Madrid the year Atleti won the title. What was that, the 2020/2021 season?
Yeah, I think so.
Yes. And they like won on the last day of the season. They came back from 1-0 down to win 2-1 and win the title. So I was in Madrid at a bar, and then we went down to Plaza de Cibeles, like half a mile away. Like all the Atletico fans just stormed there after the game, and flares, people jumping, singing, dancing. It was sick. Super good time. So that was not hooliganism, but there was one guy who had
There's always one guy.
He had one leg, 2 crutches, and he was jumping around, hitting people with his crutches, just bouncing into people, throwing his crutches in the air, and everyone was like, "Dude, this guy needs to calm." Like they were so annoyed with him, but he was going crazy. So that was really fun, and yeah, the next day, like my roommates sent me pictures of like they were on like a like not Marca, but like one of those Spanish sites, and it was a picture of like Atletico Madrid fans celebrating. I'm literally standing right there. Everyone is wearing like red and white, and I'm the only one wearing black, so like I stand out so much. But yeah, so I'll post a video so everyone can see that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I think.
What about you? Have you had any?
I've only had one instance, and that was when I was in the UK and I went to a Watford home game. By the way, what an experience that was. Going to a stadium that's more, I guess, old school when you talk about British football and being, I mean, we were right there up on the pitch. You could hear the guys talking to each other. It was another level. Didn't get to sit in the supporter section, which I think would have been a little bit more enjoyable, but it was fun nonetheless. So after the game, I'm trying to remember who they played that day. I can't. They may have been playing Sheffield. It may have been Sheffield Watford, but this is championship days too. This isn't Premier League stuff. After the game, I'm there with a group of kids that I coached. We went over to London for a trip to play games and whatnot. After the game, we had to like get against the wall and like scurry across the wall as a group because they didn't want us going anywhere near the street because there were guys on buses, windows down, threatening to come out and like kill people of the other team on the street.
What the heck?
And they were like, guys, we need to stay together. Like, we got to get on the bus. And it was definitely a moment of like, yeah, this is, you don't get this. You don't get this back home. You don't get this back home, which, I mean, I guess there's pros and cons to it. Pros being there may not be any at all. But cons being, wow, this is serious. This is pretty dangerous. I think the whole aspect of hooliganism is ridiculous. I mean, you see these people getting injured and people getting like killed, and it's wild. But just a topic that I was curious if you have more experience living in European areas. I wanted to kind of into that and see if you had any stories, which it sounds like you had something similar.
No, not like nothing that crazy. But I agree. Hooliganism is so whack. Like, have you seen Green Street Hooligans, the movie?
Oh, yeah.
So I watched that back in high school, like when I was first getting into soccer, and I was like, oh, like dang, this is pretty. Like I was like, this is cool. Like this is crazy. They're so like into it. Like they love their team, all this sort of stuff. And then I watched it again like 6 months ago, and I was like, this sucks. Like these people are awful. Like these are just grown men. Like they don't really like. Obviously, they love West Ham, but like they really just love fighting. You know what I mean? Like they're not fighting for West Ham. They're fighting for themselves because they like it, and they're just like bad people who just like to hurt other people. Like, I was like, this is so lame. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they don't even. It doesn't seem like they even go to the games for the enjoyment of the game. Like,
exactly.
They're hiding their faces because they know what they're doing is wrong, and then like, I don't know. It's kind of ridiculous. I mean,
100%.
Hopefully it doesn't branch its way into American soccer. I mean, you have a couple of, for lack of a better term, hooligans at every game you go to.
Yeah.
But sometimes they have one leg and two crutches. Sometimes they have two legs and no crutches, but they all end up doing the same thing, and that's annoying everybody.
True. Dude, I have to jump to this meeting. Do you want to end it, or should we just continue after this meeting?
You could always end it, and then we can come back.
Okay.